Thank you for joining us on Flipside. You're very, very much welcome. My name is Daisy Obaisiagon. Today I am smiling, but we're not going to be talking about a happy one. It's actually a sad situation and a pathetic one. We're talking about violence against women, and especially the girl child. Not just the woman who has given birth. We're talking about women from a baby who's born today, but a female child. Every time we have this issue coming up, a woman was raped, a woman was abused in the office sexually, a woman was battered by her husband or even a boyfriend, a woman lost her job because she's a woman. A woman was politically suppressed because she's a woman. So many ways women are being oppressed today because they're women, not because they've done something wrong. We're going to be talking about eliminating violence against women. It's the last Wednesday in November, but I know December we're going to be having a lot of Christmas related topics. But before we get into this topic in depth, we're going to go on a long break, a documentary put together for y'all because the Christmas events have started. It's a documentary on food, how to comport yourself when you go out, how to eat right, because there'll be lots of business dinners, award ceremonies, invitations by your in-laws, invitations by your friends, people you need to impress. This period, a lot of parties, graduation ceremonies and all sorts. You have to know how to eat right in those places. So let's relax a bit, learn one or two tips on eating right. When we come back from that, we'll get talking about eliminating violence against women. Don't go away.
Food is commonly used to nourish and entertain guests. During interviews, dinner parties, Christmas celebrations, Igwe festivals, wedding parties, Valentine dinner and all kinds of events, food gets served. It is one thing to get served and begin to eat like a glutton, and it is another to eat and get admiration from those around. And so, proper table manners are needed for our formal and informal dates. Table manner rules are not complicated, and most importantly, they will help you make a great impression at your next meal. Especially for formal dates or business dinners, immediately you sit at the table. Make good use of your napkin. Your napkin is not a serviette paper. It is big, wide, and thick. Place your napkin on your lap. Immediately upon sitting down, unfold it while it's in your lap. And if you want to get up, pick up your napkin from your laps, fold it back, and put it on your table before you leave. If you're hosted in a restaurant, you are expected to order for your food. Now, order something simple and familiar. Study the menu thoroughly before you order, so you don't order what the restaurant don't serve. To show you're ready to order, close your menu, place it on the table, and the waiter will come to you. Don't yell for the waiter like you're at the bus stop. But if it's not a restaurant you're being hosted, maybe a family house, you might not have much choice as to what you want to be served. But try to eat whatever they serve you. Have a taste of everything placed in front of you. And for difficult foods like spaghetti, which is a common food in many homes, you need to learn how to eat spaghetti perfectly. Now, this is how you eat spaghetti. Once your spaghetti is served, don't twirl with the support of your spoon. Always use your fork only. Never cut the thread of your pasta with a knife. And once it gets into your mouth, chew. Don't slop like. Keep the fork in a vertical position. Put the prongs down against the rim and twirl. Rotate the fork in a clockwise direction and lift. Don't overload your fork so you can neatly put everything in your mouth. And now that you've learned how to eat spaghetti, sometimes we eat and get inconveniences like burn, onion, or we just have unwanted food in our mouth and we want to take it out. Unwanted food is removed from the mouth in the manner in which it is put into the mouth. Food put into the mouth with a utensil is removed with that same utensil. Meanwhile, Foods eaten with the fingers. If you must remove unwanted food from such, you would also remove them with your fingers. We all know talking while eating is inevitable. So, if you have more than a few words to say, don't speak with your mouth full. Swallow your food. Rest your fork on your plate and speak before you resume eating. Don't gesture with a knife or the fork in your hands while you talk. It is not a battlefield. And also, don't drink with your mouth full. To avoid leaving food on the rim of the vessels, make sure the mouth is free of food and blot the lips with a napkin before taking a sip of your beverage. And now, about beverages and liquids we take at the table. We have different types of wine and different bottles, glasses for them. About wines, enjoy your wine when you're served. Don't rush it once it's poured into the proper glass. Instead, it is time for you to evaluate and enjoy the wine. Evaluating wines involve 4 basic steps: looking at it, swirling it, smelling it, and tasting it. Hold the wine glass up against a white background, such as a napkin or a tablecloth, preferably white, or ensure that the wine glass you're served with is a transparent wine glass so you can see the color of the wine. Red wines should range in color from deep purple to brick red, while white wines should range in color from lemon gold to golden amber. And after you've examined the color, you swirl your wine in your wine glass to aerate it. While you're done with that, you smell the wine. Put your nose in the glass and take a deep breath. Older wines should have subtler aromas than younger ones. And then you taste. To taste the wine, fill your mouth about half full and softly swish the wine around before you swallow. There are different wine glasses for different wines. Watch and learn. This is the first wine glass. It is short and very small. Use it during cocktail parties. In this wine glass is the champagne flute. It is narrow at the top to allow the bubbles from the wine come up and you can see the sparkling clarity of the wine. We also have the white wine bottle. It is wider than the champagne glass but not as wide as the red wine glass. This white wine glass is very portable. We also have this glass for red wine. The red wine glass can come in 2 shapes. It could be a bit round like the white wine glass but definitely wider, or it could come in this triangular shape. The point is the bottom, the base of the red wine glass is always wider than the rim, and this is to allow your wine aerate. You do not hold the wine at the base so that the heat from your hand doesn't alter the taste. You hold the wine glass at the stem. Utensil etiquette is also very important. In most situations where so much cutleries are arranged on the table, use the outside-in rule to tell which fork, knife or spoon to use at the dinner table. Start with the cutlery farthest from you and gently walk your way in. And if you drop a utensil, pick it up yourself and ask for the waiter to replace it. Don't clean and use it again. But if you cannot reach it, inform the waiter and ask for a replacement. Don't stand up from your chair to go pick up a fallen cutlery. It is wrong. And now, no matter how delicious the food is, do not scrape your plate. Scraping the plate or loud chewing is unpleasant to listen to, and it is considered impolite. Try to cut your food into 1 bite size or 2 bite sized pieces at a time. Don't cut it all like a baby. And when eating soup, spoon the soup away from you towards the center of the bowl. Usually, soup is served in a deep plate or a deep bowl, but please don't drink directly from the plate or bowl. And no matter how hot the soup is, don't blow on it or on a spoon full of soup. Do not slurp like very delicious, and never tilt your bowl. Don't fill the spoon too much. Hold the spoon by resting the end of the handle on your middle finger with your thumb on top of it. And now, what you must do is fill your spoon by moving it away from you so it doesn't spill on your dress. Fill only 2/3 of your spoon with soup. Then sip from the side of the spoon quietly. When the soup is over, leave the spoon in the bowl, not on the table. In this era of electronics, please turn off or silence all electronic devices before entering the restaurant. If you forgot to turn off your cell phone and it rings, immediately turn it off. Do not answer the call. Do not text and do not browse the internet at the table. Be polite at the table. A simple "excuse me, please, I'll be right back" can do a lot for you. Do not leave the table without a word. Always be excused before you leave. When sneezing or coughing at the table is unavoidable, just cover your nose or mouth with a napkin and proceed as quietly as possible with the sneeze or the cough. Except in an emergency where you need to blow your nose, please don't use the napkin to blow your nose. Excuse yourself, leave the table, and use an handkerchief instead. Another thing you need to know is that food should be passed to the right or the left, but the point is, food has to move only in one direction. One diner either holds the dish as the next diner takes some food, or he hands it over to the person who then serves himself and hands it over to the next person. No crossing your hands over someone to pass food. And still on how things should be passed at the table, cream pitchers and other dishes with handles should be passed with the handle towards the person receiving them. And also, if someone asks for a salt or pepper, pass both the salt and the pepper. Even if the person asks for just one, pass both anyway. Each time service is provided at a multi-course meal, verbal acceptance is not necessary. But to review service, a verbal rejection of "no thank you" is given. And by the time you're done eating totally, just say "thank you." Even as you celebrate and go for all of these ceremonies, eat wise, eat decently, and be smart. Your body is your responsibility. Please take good care of it.
Okay, your body is your responsibility, and you have should I say, an assignment given to you to take care of it. And also your reputation is as vital as your body. You need to create a very good impression, especially when you go out for the first time. So if all those who are going out this period, you're in good hands. We've helped you from that documentary on how to comport yourself as regards dining etiquette. We're going to give it to you next week and the week after, like that, till Christmas is over, so that you all can learn. For those who missed out, you can watch it again and again. So we're talking about eliminating violence against women. For those who don't know me, I'm Daisy Obaisagwan. I have a list of some of the cases that are tagged violence against women according to the World Health Organization. The first one is domestic violence. That one is common. We all know that when you're being beaten, we see that even in our streets sometimes. You see a man running around with a wife, "you kill me today," and all of that, the fight, the man beats the woman. Everybody hails the man for being a man. I mean, a man is supposed to be able to beat his wife, but does that mean the man should beat the wife? That's one is on one side. And there's so many dangers attached to that particular trait. Apart from the fact that the woman could even die from that violence, we also have the children having to deal with the psychological traumas that goes with seeing their parents fight or their dad beats their mom. We have sexual harassment. Now, that's not really rape. Rape has to deal with penetration. Sexual harassment is another level of violence. It's always common amongst in the office. We have this case of a superior oppressing a subordinate just because she's female. So you have the male bosses trying to get a lot of things that pertains to sexual favors from their subordinates, you know, and because you don't want to lose your job, or because you want to gain a particular favor, you need to endure all of the things this man does to you because you don't want to lose out in the long run. Most cases, after all the submitting you will do, you still end up losing. The sexual harassment is also another form of violence against women, and then there's rape. which deals with penetration. We've talked about rape in two phases on this show, Flipside. And about 2-3 months ago, we did rape psychiatrist's point of view. We also did rape a lawyer's point of view. So all the legal aspects of rape that you need to know. If you missed out on these two topics on rape, you can actually watch it on YouTube and catch up if you've been a victim and you want to know what to do, or you want to know how to cope. If you want to know how to cope, you watch the psychologist part of it. If you want to know how to sue and maybe get reward or justice for the act, watch the legal part of rape. Now, rape deals with intercourse. When one person is saying, I don't want it, but the other is saying, you must give me. It's forceful. That's another form of violence against women. We also have the case of female genital mutilation, FGM. That one is also something we've talked about on Flipside as a full topic, FGM, female genital mutilation. Some say it's female circumcision. Now, it's in grades. Female circumcision in Benin, let me use Benin, just deals with peeling the upper surface of the clitoris. You peel it, you don't peel it. If they don't peel it well, problem. If they peel it well, it doesn't really make much of a problem. There's no problem with it. It just makes the vagina fine, that's what they say. But if you leave it, it doesn't spoil anything. So why peel it off at all? Well, when it comes to genital mutilation, you see them using all sorts of things to seal the vagina. Now, you can even get the vagina sewn to a point that the old days just so narrow just to pee. That's what's left there. And there are tribes that practice this over and over again, and these women have to get hurt repeatedly. And when they're about to get married, that's when you now open the vagina, go through another process of local surgery. It's a lot of pain. That's another form of violence against women, according to what the word is saying it right now. Then we have forced marriage. Oh my God, that is the height. Forced marriage deals with an underage girl, or even 18 and above. You don't really want to be hooked or merged to this particular person, but your family insists. You're not happy there, you have to stay in that marriage. It's reduced now. Girls are given opportunity to choose their partners. Maybe that's the reason why we have a higher case of divorce, but I don't know about that one. So we have forced marriage as another issue. We also have crime in the name of honor. Now, this one deals really on tradition. There are a lot of things we do, and we're doing it, and we say it is right. Tradition permits it. Crime in the name of honor is a big issue. In fact, that's going to be a full-fledged topic on Flipside in 2020. We have widows who have to sit on the ground, who have to go through all sorts of abuse and pain because their husbands died. Now, this is another form of issue. And when this thing is done, it's a crime. But we say it and see it like it's a normal thing. Crime in the name of honor. And there's several areas of it that we're going to be searching, putting our touchlights to really view things from. We also have trafficking and sexual exploitation, a topic we've dealt with in different areas and different angles, and we're going to keep talking about it until it's reduced to the barest minimal. People are taken out of Nigeria or brought into Nigeria, especially girls. We have men being trafficked, but we have more girls being trafficked. They're taken out of the countries, and they are made to work as maybe domestic workers, practically like slaves or prostitutes, and different kinds of things that are inhumane. You can't even begin to think about them. Like 21st century slavery. People do this from trafficking. It's a lucrative business, big money, but at the expense of human life. Really? We also have women dealing with forced pregnancy. In the northern part of Nigeria, we have a higher percentage of younger girls getting married, forced into marriage, and then they get pregnant because they're already in a reproductive stage, they're adolescent, and they have all kinds of infection in the process of giving birth because their pelvic girdles are not well developed. So when they carry the baby, it's weak. By the time they're pushing, it affects their bladder, their vaginal tears in irreparable ways, and the husbands marry even a younger girl than they and they're in the home, they're outcast, a younger girl is there. Just because a child who's 13 could give birth doesn't mean the child who's 16 is going to give birth. Everyone have a different way to develop. So first pregnancy is just something else. It's just another part that would even lead us to legalizing abortion. Another topic for another day. Then we also have economic violence, political violence, and several others. I know that even as we're talking about violence against women, questions are coming up in your mind. How can we support victims who has experienced any of this violence I've listed? How exactly are they going to seek help? And how exactly are we going to protect them? We support them, cool, but how do we protect them from public condemnation? And how do we protect the young ones who have not been through it from being victims as well? Then what are NGOs doing about it? We have so many NGOs who say they're fighting the cost to save women and give them a good reputation and all of that. Okay, what do we need to empower these people who have been violated? What are the consequences of this violence against women? What's going to be like for the society in another 10 years if we do not do something about it? What are the consequences? Questions are coming up. Questions are coming up. Questions are coming up. And do we even have reliable statistics to back up all of these claims? They say 1 in every 30 women has been raped. Is that really true? And 1 in every 3 women who is killed is being killed by an ex from bitterness and all that. We have a special report on violence against domestic violence. We have a special report on domestic violence. We're quickly going to have that report. And when we come back, we'll be calling it a wrap on Flipside today. Special report on domestic violence. Just watch it.
Domestic violence is both a national and a world crisis. According to UNICEF study, 20 to 60% of female population of the world will become victims of domestic violence. In a populous country like Nigeria, with over 180 million people, where 60% are female, cases of domestic violence are rampant. Many women and children exposed to violence in Nigeria are also victims of physical and emotional abuse and are at serious risk of long-term physical and mental health problems. In most domestic violence, which manifests itself in physical, sexual, and psychological forms, encompassing intimate partner violence, Mrs. Mandalene Oehe, Commissioner for Women Affairs, said that women often face domestic violence at the hand of their family members and gave some reasons of what can cause domestic violence. Mandalene Oehe also added that women and men experiencing domestic violence have varying response and differences in whom they report their abuse to. Barrister Osara Osawige, a legal practitioner who also spoke on domestic violence being a major problem in many parts of Africa, outlined some factors that can cause domestic violence.
It can be said to be inevitable. It's bound to happen because I remember growing up, like my parents would always say, despite the closeness of the mouth and the teeth, sometimes they have cause to, work against each other, and that is how I see the issue between a man and a woman in a home being violated, and as it is today, men are being violated, just that it's more common in women, and if not properly handled, could lead to divorce and separation, and you most cases have broken home that now lead our children out of school, not being taken care of properly the way they are supposed to be. What we do here in the Ministry of Women Affairs is to try as much as possible to see how we can resolve any of these issues that are brought to our notice. We believe that if the message of Christ or from the Muslim angle, if it is well understood, you will agree with me that we will have less of this problem. But I must say it is good for us to maintain peace in our homes, because failure to do that will lead to a lot of things that will not go well with the immediate home and the society in general.
The issue of those who are really, do I say they are addicted to violence or they exhibit violent behavior, at the least provocation, the result of violence, without husband and wife discussing issues and settling disagreement amicably. All these ones, they cause family violence. And there is poverty and hunger in a home. It can lead to violence. Because imagine somebody has not eaten for 3 days. You don't expect that person to behave very well. These are basic issues. Husband and wife disagreement here and there. Like I said, people are unable to resolve their issues amicably. All these lead to family violence. So these are some of the symptoms of family violence. And it can also affect the children of the marriage. Children who grow up in a home where their father and mother fight every night, every day. It affects them psychologically. Can even affect their growing up, even their performance in school. It's affected. It can even make the children themselves to be abusers and violent people when they grow up. We advise family members to discuss issues. They should avoid suspicion. What we have now is what Donald Trump called fake news. There is fake news everywhere. There are people that are carriers of fake news. They can carry fake news about your wife just to destroy your home. They can carry fake news about your husband just to destroy your home. They can carry fake news about your children just to destroy your home. The best thing is to ask questions. Investigate. You can consult your lawyer. They will advise you. There are avenues for reconciliation. Even the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, they have the department. Even the police, they have the department for marital reconciliation. Even the religious bodies, the very good pastors, they can help, family members to resolve. Our traditional rulers, traditional institutions, they are there to help us resolve all these family disputes to avoid violence. We now have the multi-door court in the court, which is dedicated to reconciliation, mediation, and arbitration of disputes, including family disputes. That is not like the ordinary court of law, where you have a hostile environment. This one, both of you sit down, they might be able to resolve. But if you're unable to resolve, I will advise separation or divorce.
Pastor Azine Azena, who also on his own path deliberated on domestic violence, explained what he understood by domestic violence, stating some key words that can stir up domestic violence in a home, and also spoke on the dangers and effect on children.
Misunderstanding, anger, beating, fighting, destroying things, avoiding each other. It means a lot. When you say family violence, it talk about when the family is in disarray, where it's disunity, when there is argument. Sometimes it can even lead to taking of one's life. What is violence? Violence is where wisdom is supposed to be in place. Foolishness or stupidity is manifesting. When you check Ecclesiastes chapter 7, anger is in the bosom of a fool. Where you have a woman that is nagging, an angry man, definitely it can result to a violence. Now, for example, when you are a calm person, there are many things you avoid. But when you are a man or a woman that cannot control his or her anger, what you would have used wisdom to handle, there's no wisdom there to handle it, then definitely you will use your hand to handle it. When you see family violence, just is traceable also to wrong words or harsh words or pleasant languages that people are using against themselves. And another thing that can result to family violence, misunderstanding, when you cannot understand each other. Understanding is very, very crucial. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he or she will go. And when that child will grow up, he or she will not depart from the way. Children learn by what they see, not what they hear. If you are fighting in the presence of your children, have this in mind, that among these children, they will take after you. Secondly, they will not be peace ambassadors in the society or in their schools. They will definitely exhibit what they saw you doing at home. And they were brought up from the atmosphere of harsh words. Idiots. I will kill you now. I will waste your life. God punish your father. Such words. And coming up like that, they are part of the child. So if you want our future to be better, we should make sure we handle family violence to preserve the children. Probably you have tried to settle each other. It's not working. You have as a side patient, it's not working. To avoid killing each other, it is allowed for you to separate for a while. You know, God is not in support of divorce, but God allows separation.
To break the circle and to reduce the cases of domestic violence in homes, Dr. Idemodia Chris gave his own opinion in domestic violence and the danger attached to it with the effect on children.
We call it intimate partner abuse. Violence can either be physical, abuse can also be emotional, it can be financial, not giving your spouse what they are supposed to get from you as a husband or as a wife. A lot of us today are under pressure. Not many people can handle the fallouts that come from societal pressure. So some of them tend to take out their frustrations on their family members. Look at the children in the setting. Children watch their parents fight, and this tend to send negative signal. Some of these children, because their fathers and their mother are always fighting, because they don't show love to each other, these children are not able to show love to other people. Some of them take violence as a means of settling issues. Some can either fight even in school. Some can become armed robbers. Some can do so many things that are antisocial. People should learn to marry for the right reasons. You must learn to tolerate each other. You must learn to understand one another. And if love is not part of the marriage, living together will be very difficult.
Comrade Rosemary Okodua, who also in a bid to advise families on domestic violence, said that both partners should understand themselves and love each other in order not to impart negative knowledge in their children.
It is the dangers in it, they are enormous. This violence, at times you hear because of fights, a wife will kill the wife, stab the husband, or the husband kill the wife. What would have led to that? In all this, it is understanding. If you know what your husband hates, or you know what your wife don't like, at least there was time of courtship before you people get married. Avoid those things to keep your family happy. When the home is in unity, you see the children, they progress. Naturally, you see them progressing. But when there's disunity, there's always a problem because they don't have anybody to speak to. And whatever they now go outside to do, the parents at that time may not be able to control it.
For domestic violence to be reduced in the country, government should strongly implement programs and laws that are effective and help violence perpetrators get the knowledge. Caroline Okonji, reporting.
All right, so I want to say thank you to Caroline for that very great report on domestic violence. We're talking about violence against women. I've talked about the domestic violence, which was the first thing I said. That's why we had to bring you that special report. We also highlighted rape, sexual harassment, female genital mutilation, forced marriage, forced pregnancy, crime in the name of honor, especially those things they do to widows, trafficking and sexual exploitation, economic violence, political violence, and the list is actually endless. But I have Ronke Ojekere with me in the house. She's actually the convener of Society to Heighten Awareness of Women and Child Abuse, Sotawaka. Good to have you here again today. We don't have much time, so we're just going to make it fast. We had to do all our many documentaries quickly, so hence the reason you had to come this time. But the first question I want to ask is, what is the root cause of this violence against women? Because it seems like we've been talking about it is not reducing. So if we want to deal with violence against women, I think we have to find out the root causes of it.
Well, you were just mentioning a few things. Yes, violence against women, gender-based violence, they all have different connotations. They all have different reasons why violence goes on. If we looking at women, because we are 16 days of activism is actually talking about what violence against women. Violence against women has causes from financial causes, from emotional causes, some socio-economic causes. So many causes can be used as reasons why women go through violence. Some men say that it is the mouth, the tongue that puts the woman in trouble. Yes, we have verbally abusive men, and many women cannot really hold back. When you keep verbally abusing a woman, she's forced to talk back, and then violence starts. When you deny a woman of her friends, you married a woman who is very sociable, who had friends, and then you now decide that the woman should not keep friends. That's a form of violence, because you're now denying her of friends that ordinarily she would like to hang out with. And when she insists that she needs to keep her friends or she needs her family, then problems start. It's not when you hit a woman that we say violence. Those are physical violence. Those are the things that you can see. But when you verbally abuse a woman, the woman now recedes into a shell, and then she now goes into psychological or mental torture and all of that. When a woman earns money and you say that that woman needs to give you the money because you are the head of the home, you deny the woman of financial resources. That's another financial violence. You don't let a woman work, a woman you met who has been working on her life, and suddenly you now say to her, you know what, you're supposed to be the woman in the home, you're supposed to take care of the home, then you now keep her in the house. Meanwhile, you cannot support her financially. You are now abusing her financially. Then all sorts of things really can cause violence. But when you find people who look at these issues and say to you that she should have known what she's going into, you cannot judge a book by its color. If somebody who has agreed from the very beginning that you should walk, that you should do this, that you could do that, and suddenly sees you as a threat when you come in as a wife, and now uses it against you, friction starts to happen. I don't know which I would rather have, but violence is violence. You know, if you strike a woman and you wound a woman, right, people would say, yes, okay, he has hurt you, he has, you know. But when a woman comes to you to tell you that she is emotionally traumatized, you know, and she's saying it and people are looking at her, but you are not looking that way. You are not looking like somebody who is going through mental torture in the home, you know. And when I hear such things, I say, how do you want the woman to look? A woman comes to you and she tells you that I am not happy in my home. And she's recounting the many series of things that she's going through in the hands of the man who has professed to loving her. Women are denied sex. Those are also issues. Yes, yes. So there are so many what may be applicable to person A who is experiencing violence in the home may not be applicable to person B or C or D. So it's just for all of us who are looking at issues as it concerns violence to a woman to look at it holistically and see how we can remedy a situation. But you know what? We cannot stop violence. We're different people. We have different approaches. People come to me to discuss violence. The way and manner at which I will counsel couple A, depending on what they have told me, will be different from how I will counsel couple B. I have seen women who have come to me and told me issues that they are going through in their homes, and I say to them, I need to meet with that man, because I believe that be it a currency, be it a coin, there are always two sides to a story. And you now listen to both sides. You who's listening can obviously tell who is at fault, but because you must not be judgmental, you just listen to both of them and prefer a solution to the issues.
Okay. But what can we do to prevent violence against women and girls at this stage with the exposure we have?
Well, right now, we're looking at, especially with this current trend, it's just to continue to educate and sensitize the women folk and the girls, you know, about the red flags. You know, they should know when to quit, you know, but for a woman who's already in the home, you cannot tell a woman who is experiencing violence, take for example, to go for divorce. But wherein you can see in that woman that there are some very serious issues, you might tell her, you know what, I think you should move out until you can settle these things amicably. Because what causes death in the homes for couples these days? It is a woman who has had it up to her neck. I must tell you now that more women are beginning to kill their men than men killing the woman. I said it once upon a time that, you know, a man may be driven to striking a woman and say, you know what, I've had enough, I'll kill you, you know, and stops because, you know, maybe I should walk away. But once a woman has made up her mind that, you know, I've had enough of all of this thing, she strikes and she doesn't care what happens. It is only after she has killed that she realizes that she has killed somebody. So instead of getting to the stage of losing one's life, it is best to just walk away.
Okay, now, NGOs, I know you are doing a lot to help women. Your NGO is also one of those. But do you have reliable statistics to show the prevalence of violence against women in Nigeria, to at least to ascertain the level of damage done and how to go about helping?
I'm happy you used the word reliable, you know, because we all know that we really do not have statistics. You know, we may just hassle a guess and say, okay, maybe 40%, maybe 50%, maybe 60%. How many people actually come to report cases that their husbands are violent to them? You know, so you cannot just give a blanket figure, you know, but I know that it is rising. It is rising, and it is not good to just come here and tell you that 80% of women in the homes are experiencing violence, or one in every 10 women have experienced violence. But, you know, when we want to look at issues of rape and all of that, we can tell you that 1 in every 5 girls would experience sexual abuse before the age of 18. You understand? We can say that, but have I actually given you the statistics that you are looking for?
No.
No. I have just told you that this is
general
how
sense.
I look at it. This is the generality of how we look at it. So until we start to get women to coming out, to reporting as and when due, and we have documentations to show, we may just be running that, okay, 60% of women, 70% of women, you know, and all of
Okay,
that.
now for even the few women who have the courage to come out to speak against their families' belief and traditional and religious beliefs, okay, I want to say this thing, it's going on, I can't keep it anymore. What do we have things in place to support these women and protect them?
Well, like for example, in Edo State now, we have the, what's this office called now? In Ministry of Justice, where you could
Women
go
Affairs,
to, no, even Ministry of Women Affairs, but Ministry of Justice.
FIDA,
No,
something.
FIDA does things on abuse, the legal angle of it. The Ministry of Justice also, they have a wing where you could just take not civil liberties, but we have a wing there where you could just take your cases to, and they help you look at the issues. Ministry of Social Development and Gender Issues, another government parastatal that also addresses issues of violence and all of that. But you know what? When we are looking at all of this, just like the NGOs, we cannot remove the family from it, you know. And when you even start the process of saying, okay, let us look at this, how it's supposed to be looked at. This same woman who has cried to you, saying that my husband is killing me, my husband has done this, my husband has done that, will suddenly one day wake up and come to you and say, you know what, I don't want to pursue this matter anymore. My family has stepped in. Now he has promised that he's not going to do that again. You know, would not even let you address the matter properly to ensure that you get full settlement. You now get to hear, no, my cousin, my family, my husband is saying this to my children are not viewing me as a good mother. You know, so sentiment starts to play in. And the family in themselves, especially the mothers will say, you think that I'm in your father's house, you think that your father has never struck me before? Did I pack away from the home? I remained there because I wanted to take care of you. You understand? And you find the fathers also saying that, so what if a man strikes you? He married you. There must have been something you have done wrong. Until when that man now starts to inflict serious bodily harm,
nobody sees it.
Nobody sees what that woman is seeing. So because that woman knows that, you know, I really do not have the family support who would come to me, why start the case at all? Even the women who have been bold, you know, to coming out and seeing the process through. There are times they come back to you to say, you know what, I think I want to move back to my home. I cannot leave my home like that. There are some who will tell you that, you know what, I built that home. They are looking at the financial gains. Or somebody is now going to start to stay in my home. They are not looking at their well-being. And so when you have such people who think only about material gains, then you start to wonder, you know, what does the woman really want for herself when it has to do with violence? Actually traumatized, who have been beaten very seriously. You can see the scars. You can even see a woman who is emotionally traumatized. I say to that woman, you know what? You need to be well. You need to be alive to look after your children. And if you drive me to the point where I have to tell you what I think, I will tell them, you know what? This gold band that we wear and said for better, for worse, does not mean that till death do we part. It's not that your husband must kill you or you must kill your husband, you know. And I say to mothers, I say to parents, you know what? It is better for a child to come back home than for that child to come back in a casket. Because that way, when she comes back in a casket, you're never going to see her again, or you're never going to see him again. You know?
Yes, I think
So,
we're just going to end that
yeah.
with that statement. Okay, so yes, it was a short interview today. We had documentaries, 2 documentaries we had to feature inside this program, Eliminating Violence Against Women. And I had Ronke, the convener of Sotawaka. She's been on the show a couple of times, several times. Anytime we call upon her, she's here, and she's not a name we don't know in Edo State, fighting the cause to save the girl child from any kind of abuse you can think of. So if you are one of those victims out there and you just watch this program, maybe on cable, on satellite TV, or on YouTube, or even Facebook Live, or streaming, or on all social media platforms, and you want help, you can actually reach out to us and we'll give you her contact so that she can help you. We're not looking for those who will start the process and run away. We need more women to be bold. And for parents, I will borrow Ronke's words. It's better to have your child come back home alive and deal with the shame briefly than to bring her dead body to you and then you cry and bear and never hear from her again. Let's not support violence in any form. Let's not encourage it. It's our duty as a society to put a stop to violence and protect the victims from violence and also support them. I'm Daisy Obaise. I want to thank you so much for watching. Next week it will be the first edition in the month of December, so all the Christmas soft programs will be coming to you back to back. Ensure you watch. Bye for now.